you want to buy your first business, this interview will show you exactly how to do it.
Tell us about the first acquisition and warts and all.
Okay, so the first one was a company, so obviously we sent out 500 letters from the template you gave us, and I spoke to 30 or 40 on the phone when they responded, and then I whittled that down to 5, and then 3 I pursued with a bit, and then 2 very quickly went. So the first one we bought, you know, it was a really great company. They had their own product. The team had been there a long time and they really got it. They had a really good customer base. They were an e-commerce company. They had their own e-commerce platform, which was, for me, something we'd never dealt with as a digital agency. So it was like a new vertical market for us. It made sense. So on paper, the company was purchased for, it started off being purchased for 400,000. And we agreed 40,000 up front, but that was less than they had in the bank. And then spread out as deferred over 4 years. By the time we got to the actual sales, there was a couple of things which they hadn't hit a couple of targets in terms of the SPA. So, and it sounds mercenary when you say it, but at the 11th hour we sort of said, actually we think the company is now 350, not 400. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. I didn't do the things I said I'd do. So we docked it down then. Yeah, so we bought it. And obviously the money came out of the company itself, and every month we're paying him a fee out of the company, which is good. And then I don't know if you remember, Jonathan, I spoke to you or texted you and said, if I want to clear him off, what are your thoughts? You know, the deferred. And you just said, offer him a number. So we owed him, I think, something like 180,000 at this point. So I said, would you take 100 to clear it, you know, in cash? And he said no, but we agreed on 120. So that was the first one in. So there was my company, and then we built the structure up, as Jonathan sort of says about with all the SVPs. So that was the first one into the group. And yeah, it's now the biggest part of what we do.
And how long did it take you from having that first conversation on the phone to completion?
It's funny, I looked this up because I knew you'd ask. It was about 9 weeks.
9 weeks, okay. That's pretty fast.
Yeah, it was quite fast. He was just keen. There was no other shareholders to worry about. His accountant and lawyer were really on it. And, I actually thought it was a bit too easy, to be honest. It was a weird one.
Is it one of those things that if you make it difficult, it's difficult, and if you just sort of go with the flow?
Yeah, and just take it all on the chin in the questions, and he was motivated. I kept on meeting him. He was quite local to me, so it was easy. So I kept meeting him for coffee and got to know him, and we just talked about ambulance driving, really. So he was really motivated to sell. He was late 50s. He'd had enough. So the second one was another digital agency local to us. They weren't going into administration, but they were in trouble. They weren't making money. That was the thing. When we did the due dill on them, they probably had 300 clients on their books, which is a lot for an agency. Hosting their websites, doing lots of bits. And they had this pipeline of work. So we thought we could come in, we could tidy it up a bit. Some of the clients were paying fees which hadn't changed in over 10 years. So we thought 300 clients, if we even had £100 a month, onto this and that, just say, look, we've come in and we're just uniformly making these fees adjusted. We thought, that would easily put it into profitability. So on paper, we were like, I can see a route through to make this and keep all the jobs. It was a bit of a slower process. And again, this highlights the speed is everything. It was probably 3 months.
Buying a business is just so rewarding. And I put together a free training showing you exactly how I do it. If you look in the video description below this video, there is a link. You click the link, you're taken through to the training, watch the training, and I'll show you exactly how to buy a business successfully.
And one of my learning curves was do a slight, another tweak on the due diligence if it's taken a long time. So we didn't. So we bought it, And then very quickly realised the VAT bill had been paid on a company credit card, which wasn't a debt before. There was a loan taken out in the period for an amount. And what else? There was one other thing. Oh, and then all the work the team had booked in for the next 6 months had all been paid for up front and spent.
Oh, right.
So there was no ability for them to earn any money because they were all busy for months. Right. So we kept going and we tried to save it. I mean, we bought it for next to nothing. I mean, I think the total agreed value was 15,000 paid over 3 years. So it wasn't. But because of those things, he'd broken some of the warranties. So I wrote him a letter to say, as per these clauses in the contract, what do you want to do? So he said he would walk away and not ask for any of the money. I think we paid him 2 payments at this point. And then we looked at it and we brought in the administrators. It just wasn't savable because of these extra debts. So the hindsight, the learning curve was we should have bought the assets, not the shares. It should have been an asset purchase because that would have cleared off that would have made it really good. But one thing we did learn, the administrator, because my accountant recommended him and said he was a friendly one, he came in and then he started going, it's going to cost you this much to get rid of the furniture and this much to get rid of the kit. So I said, can I buy it back out of administration? So I bought all the hardware, because he said it was going to cost like thousands to get all the computers cleaned and all that. And I said, I don't want to spend any money. Can I buy the hardware from you? And he said, make me an offer. And I said, 200 quid. And he just went, yeah, that's fine. He didn't care. For 30 iMacs and keyboards and some PCs and 2 55-inch TVs. And
So you put the company into admin, but you bought the assets back yourself.
Yeah,
So all the problems went away.
yeah, so I bought, in separate transactions, I bought all the hardware, all the, the electronic hardware as they called it, which is a bit of a dated term. I bought all that for £200. Then I bought the contracts from it, I think 500 quid or something. But then I bought them and I sold them to another local agency for £6,000. And then all the furniture, the landlord of the building room had the floor below us. So I went downstairs and said, look, you're not getting your rent. We're going into administration, but I don't want you to be lost out. Do you want all the furniture? It was all brand new, lovely stuff. And they went up and went, yeah, we'll move on to this floor and we'll take all the furniture. Thank you very much. So it all, it was a bit of a sad thing. You made people redundant and stuff, but, and we shouldn't have got excited and we should have bought the assets. But at that point, it was all a bit like, So. The third limited company was, so a friend of mine had a company, a digital agency, and he had 2 partners. So it was equally owned by 3 guys, and they'd all fallen out. That was the problem. And they had a contract, a preferred supplier status with Virgin Media. And that contract is like gold dust. To get that, in our world, is like, how the hell did they get it? But they did. So I said to him, I'd buy the company off him instead of putting it into administration because they just couldn't work together anymore. Now, I was just saying to Jonathan just in the break, I don't actually understand the detail of how we did it. The accountant did it. So basically, for them to close the company, they had quite a lot of money in directors' loans, which they would have had to pay back because it's money they've taken from the company. But somehow my accountant worked out, there was money in the bank as well. The company was, positive cash flow. So the accountant worked out a way that we could pay on paper 185,000, I think it was, for the company because of the cash in the bank. And then we paid them out of the cash in the bank, but then he's done an application because of the company sale for what we call S455 tax. I'm out of my comfort zone now. And that will come back to us probably in February next year, and that'll be about £100,000. So technically we're getting paid about £100,000 to buy the company, which is kind of bizarre.
Awesome, man.
It's bonkers, isn't it? I was saying to Jonathan, the accountant, I've said to him, can you explain to me how you've done this? And he's like, wow, you do this. And I'm like, no, I don't get it. I just don't get it, but thank you. So we've got the contract. Again, and then the guys who, were selling the company they wanted to keep all the kit, and they'd bought lots of things like bikes and tellies for their houses on the company. So they had to buy that off me. So they all paid me, about £2,000 each for the kit they bought, which was a bargain for what they'd got. But legally, they had to buy that out of the company, the assets. So
the company purchased it, and they wanted to keep it.
Yeah, because it was in the house.
Otherwise, they have to give it all back, right?
Yeah, and I said to them, I don't mind if you want to give me your bike and your TV and your 3 Xboxes. And, I was like, I think the tax man is going to question why you've got all this through your company. They were quite happy. They said, give us a figure. So I gave them a figure, which was a lot lower than the value of it. I mean, they're nice guys, and I didn't really want the stuff. So yeah, they bought it all back off the company. So I got about £6,000 there. Then we're going to get this tax back, and we've got this ongoing contract now with Virgin Media. So that's the third limited company in the group.
That was the big upside. Yeah.
When buying a business, you need a great lawyer on your team. So why not use mine? His name is John Andrews, and his details are on the screen.
It's a good contract. It's just generating money every month now.
Yeah. I asked you before we started if you use the letter approach.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
So did you take my letter and just adapt it, personalise it? How did you approach it?
I mean, we can look at us sitting here. I'm probably less formal than you, Jonathan. So I took the structure of the letter and I adapted a bits of it to make it more Andy-like and a bit more, digital agency sort of wording. But it was pretty much, we've come across your company, we think it's great, giving them the strokes. I would love to have a telephone chat with you, if you're interested, in, acquisition. It was a simple 2-line letter, and I bought the list from, one of the websites online. I bought a list of digital agencies in the Southwest. So the hardest bit was starting that first process, and obviously everyone here on the cohort. I remember every month coming in and people would be like, oh, I've sent the letters. And I was just like, oh, I'm not doing this. And I said to Jason.
Yeah.
I said to him over a beer, I was like, right, before the next one, if I haven't sent out the letters, you can just punch me in the face. And I bought the list and just did it. And then from there, it's actually just a process.
How did you feel in your very first phone call?
I hated it. It was the word, the first phone call was really hard. The first few were, to be honest. And then I met with a few people, not any businesses we bought. There's a few people who were quite local to me. And I think you said it on the course about just go and meet people and have a chat. One guy was like, oh, come and meet me, you'll see me. I'm the guy who looks like Richard Gere. I was like, great, the ginger bloke meets Richard Gere, brilliant. And again, it was just a chat. And then after a couple, you actually thought, yeah, this is actually fine. And now, I've got no issue. I mean, just, even the business we bought, my friend owned the one, but the other two I'd never met. But I rang them both individually, Hi, it's Andy. I'm looking at buying your business. Should we have a chat? Because I just want to know how you feel about it. It's just.
So what's the secret of your success?
Doing it, isn't it? Just getting on with it.
Is it really as simple as that?
It's as simple as you just got to take that first step and go, I'm going to ring them. Not email them. If you email them, you get into that. It's if they email you, you ring them. That's the thing. You can't beat a phone call.
So obviously, from the looks of it, you're looking at 15-ish times multiple you're looking to exit for times EBIT. But I imagine that you're buying for much less than that. So on your first deal, obviously, which seems to be the one that's brought you the most value, how did you come to the price of the 400 grand?
My accountant. I've got the most amazing accountant, to be honest. So I got their last year's figures, and then I asked, and then I literally gave them to him, and then I put him in touch with the owner. So then I sort of took a step back, and then he went over to their offices with his assistant, and literally he said, we're going to open drawers and see if there's paperwork, and chat to them. And he just came back to me and said, with a big long report, and it wasn't this, I'm not talking mega bucks here to do this. He came back and he said, they got this many clients for this amount of time. I would put a figure out, and he actually put it higher. He said, I put this figure as a fair price for the company right now.
So the guy who wanted to be the ambulance driver didn't give you a price he wanted at that particular point, or had he?
The learning curve again, I said to him, how much do you want for it? And he wouldn't say, he just wouldn't. Now, I'd just be like, well then we can't proceed. That's what I would do further on. But my accountant, he came in and he actually put the structure together for me. He said, there's enough money in the bank to do this. He got deferred consideration, he got all the, when the guy would have to pay his tax, and he sort of said, if you offer him this, he's going to bite your hand off. So I offered him what the accountant said, minus about 100 grand. And he was perfectly happy. And then like I said, later on, when he didn't hit some of the levels he said, we took 50 off, which was fair. I mean, I wasn't trying to pull one on him. He said the company was going to do this, and there was this contract coming in, and that didn't happen, and these two bits didn't happen. So my accountant said, to be honest, with the realisation of that, we probably should lower it by 50.
Andy Doyle, thanks very much.
Thank you.